Hi, it's Jane with Scraptastic Yarns, and today I am going to start the cowl for the summer crossing shawl, which if you are a member of the Scraptastic Yarns group on Facebook, that pattern is in the file section and you can download it. It's a PDF and I'm pulling it out, and here is that pattern. And we're going to do this. Now, I do not currently have a finished item of it because once I finished this pattern and then made 2 or 3 samples, every one of those samples went to the Prayer Shawl Ministry to be given out. So we're going to start fresh, okay? So I hope you'll join me. I'm going to tell you the things that you're going to need. You're going to need approximately 700 to 800 yards of some kind of worsted weight yarn. However, you can do this in any weight yarn you want. You can also use any size hook that you want. In the sample, I'd used a J, but my J is busy, so I'm going to use a K. A K hook for this one. I have quite a few of these sweet rolls left over, so I decided I would use it. This is in the color Blueberry Swirl. Like I said, I have quite a few of those, so I'm going to use that. You can use scraps. You can use any, like I said, any yarn you want. Do scraps. You know, just make it your own. The samples that I had made it in, I believe were in the Red Heart Super Saver Ombre in the scuba color is the one that the pattern that I had taken a picture of it in, placed it in the pattern. You're going to need a yarn needle for weaving in your ends when you get to the end, scissors or snips or something. I am going to assume that you know how to crochet. I'm not going to teach you the stitches. Well, sort of, but not really. And I'm going to tell you, it's in U.S. terminology for this pattern. You're going to use stitches like a chain, single crochet, double crochet, magic ring. Some of the special stitches are the cross double crochet, which is real simple. You're going to skip next stitch, double crochet in the next, and then you're going to turn back and double crochet in that stitch skipped. The shell stitch that I worked is simply 5 double crochet into a stitch. That's my shell. Now I do use a magic ring when I make this. However, you can certainly chain 4, join it with a slip stitch to start and then use that. But yeah, let's get into it. Okay, see you in just a minute. All right, now I start out with the magic ring. You can certainly chain, your 4 if you want, slip stitch, but I just start out with the magic ring. And you're going to chain 2. Gonna get my pattern here. Actually, you're going to chain 3. Sorry about that. Then you are going to go into your ring and you're going to place 2 double crochets. There's 2. Then you're going to chain 2. Then you are going to do 2 more double crochets, actually 3 double crochets. I just noticed I have a blooper in my pattern. I generally pull that tight, and then I go ahead and I do turn, but you don't have to. You can chain 3 and then turn. And then we are going to place a double crochet into that first stitch, which is the same stitch. And then a double crochet into the next 2 stitches. I need to get some more yarn out of this. Okay. Then into the chain 2 space, we are going to place 2 double crochets. And of course, a double crochet is a yarn over, go into that chain, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Then you will chain 2 again, and you'll place 2 more double crochets into the chain 2 space. Now, you can place a marker here in this chain 2 space. I don't normally, because I know that that is going to be my chain 2 space always. It just always is going to be that center point. But if it helps you, place a stitch marker there. Then you are going to double crochet into the next 2 stitches. Get a little more yarn. And then in this last stitch in the top of the chain 3, you're going to place 2 double crochets. And there you have your first 2 rows. Then you will chain 3. You can turn, then chain your 3. You're going to place a double crochet again in that first stitch, which is right here. Then you are going to chain 2. You are going to skip the next 2 stitches. And then you will double crochet into this 3rd stitch, or the next stitch. Then you will chain 2, and skip the next 2 stitches, which brings you to your chain 2 space. Then you will place 2 double crochets into that chain 2 space. If you notice, my hand sometimes doesn't want to work after the surgery. That's still training and giving it strength. Then you will chain 2 and put 2 more double crochets into that chain 2 space. Then you are going to chain 2, skip the next 2 stitches, place a double crochet into this stitch, next stitch, and then you will chain 2 again and skip the next 2, which will bring you to your last stitch, which is that chain 3 of the previous row, and you will place 2 double crochets into that stitch. Now I know I'm going to chain 3 For the next row, we're on row 4. So again, we're going to double crochet into that same stitch. What this does is this increases it along each of the edges. Okay? Then you will double crochet into the next stitch. And then you are going to place 2 double crochets in that chain 2 space. You'll double crochet into this next stitch. And again, 2 into the chain 2 space, 2 double crochets. Basically, you're going to fill across this border. Then again, you'll do a double crochet into this next stitch, double crochet into this last stitch, and then you're back at your chain 2 space, which is your center stitch, center part of the shawl, and you'll put 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 more double crochets into that. Then you will double crochet into each stitch across the next 2 stitches. You come again to your chain 2 space and you'll place 2 double crochets into the chain 2 space. Now I just go around the chain 2 space rather than going into the stitches. You could go into the stitches if you want. I just find it easier to go around the chain. Then you'll double crochet into that next stitch and 2 double crochets into the chain 2 space. You'll double crochet into this next double crochet, top of it. And then in the very last, at the chain 3, you'll place 2 double crochets into the top of the chain 3. And this one, for some reason, I got a little tighter than all the rest. Again, you'll chain 3 and turn, or you can turn and then chain 3. Now row 5 is exactly what you think you're going to do. You're going to double crochet into each stitch across to your center point. At the center point, you'll place 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet, and then you'll single crochet across the top. We'll do that together. You're going to place another double crochet into the same stitch. Like I said, you'll double crochet in each stitch across. I tend to really like blues for shawls. I don't know why. I gravitate towards blues, greens, and purples for all my shawls. I realized that the other day when I was looking back at some of the pictures I've done. Again, I'm in the center point. I've put 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 more double crochets, and then I will double crochet across in each stitch of the previous row. And I always find it interesting for folks that are left-handed. You're basically following the same thing. You're just going in a different direction. There are some different starting that magic ring is going to be different for you if you're left-handed. And then, of course, at the last stitch, that chain 3 of the previous row, we're going to place 2 more double crochets. And there's the first part of this shawl. Again, you can chain 3 and then turn. All right, we're ready to do row 6. I've already done my chain 3 and turn. And row 6 is where we do our cross stitch. So we are going to do a double crochet into this first chain. Not sure why that's not very focused. Yeah, that's a little bit better. Not much, but a little bit better. All right, so next we are going to skip this next stitch, double crochet into the next stitch. Now, the reason this is called a cross stitch is because now we are going to double crochet into this stitch that we skipped. So we are basically going to cross over in front, go through front to back, and we are going to be crocheting around that double crochet we just crocheted. And then you will place that stitch there. Now you will notice you have a chain here. Don't go back into this one. Skip the next one, go into this next one. Do your double crochet, and then go into the one you skipped and crochet it. You're going to do that all the way to the chain 2 of the point. All right, so let's continue on. Double crochet into our skip for our cross stitch, skip the next, double crochet into this one, and then into our skip stitch, skip the next, double crochet into it, come back for our cross stitch, do our double crochet there, and then we will repeat that. And then into our point, where we are at the center of our shawl, we are placing 2 double crochets, chain 2 and 2 double crochets. All right, and then we're going to start that cross stitch again on this side. So we'll skip this first one, double crochet into this, then double crochet into the one we skipped, skip this next one, double crochet into this one, then double crochet into the one that we skipped again. And we're just going to repeat that to our last stitch. Now we still have one more stitch, that is the chain 3 of the previous row, and we are going to place 2 double crochets into that. And then again we can chain 3 and turn, or turn and chain 3, whichever you choose. Now row 7, we are once again putting a double crochet into that first stitch. What this does is it actually increases our shawl. So then we are going to chain 2, skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, and double crochet into our next stitch. Chain 2, skip 2 stitches, and double crochet into our next stitch, not single, double. Chain 2, skip 2, double crochet into our next stitch, chain 2, skip the next 2 stitches, double crochet into the next stitch. Chain 2, skip the next 2, double crochet into our next stitch, chain 2, and here we've gotten to our last stitch. We skip the next 2 and we're going to place 2 double crochets into that center space, chain 2 space, chain 2, and 2 more double crochets into that double crochet space, or chain 2 space. Chain 2. Now, we will skip the next 2 and double crochet into the next stitch. Chain 2, skip the next 2, double crochet into the next stitch. Chain 2, skip the next 2, double crochet into the next stitch. Chain 2, skip the next 2, double crochet into the next stitch. Chain 2, double crochet, skip next 2, double crochet into the next stitch. Then we will chain 2 and skip the next 2, and that brings us to our chain 3 of the previous stitch. Here we are going to place 2 double crochets into that last stitch. Then you can chain 3 and turn, or turn and chain 3. And there you have through row 8. You should have 2, 4, 6, 2, 4, 6 open spaces in each side. All right, row 8 is going to be a little bit different. Row 8 is going to add the shell stitch in. We're going to chain 3, do our turn, going to do a double crochet into that same stitch. We are going to double crochet into this next stitch. Then we are going to chain 1, and we are going to single crochet into this chain 2 space. Then we will chain 1. In this next chain 2 space, we are going to place 5 double crochets. That is the shell stitch. Okay, so 5 double crochets. again, we're going to chain 1, and we are going to put a single crochet into the next chain 2 space. Chain 1, then we are going to put a shell into the next chain 2 space. Shell is 5 double crochets. Chain 1, single crochet into the next chain 2 space, chain 1, and a shell into that next chain 2 space. Chain 1, we're going to skip this next one and do a single crochet into the next stitch. Then we will chain 1 and do 2 double crochets into our center chain 2 space. Chain 2, 2 double crochets into the chain 2 space again. Your center point will always be 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets. Now, we are going to chain 1 after that. We are skipping this next stitch and single crocheting into this next stitch. Then we will chain 1. We are going to do a shell. We did a shell in this stitch, so we are going to do a shell in this stitch. So 5 double crochets. Chain 1, single crochet in the next chain 2 space, chain 1, 5 double crochets into the next chain 2 space, chain 1, single crochet into the next chain 2 space, chain 1, and a shell into the next chain 2 space. All right, folks, my battery died, but basically you're going to do the shell in one stitch, in one chain 2 space, single crochet into the next, with the last shell being in the next to the last chain 2 space. In that last chain 2 space, you're going to place a double crochet, and then you will chain 1, do a double crochet into the next stitch, and 2 double crochets into that chain 3 of the previous stitch. And there you have that row there. You are going to chain 3 and turn, or turn and chain 3. And I need to turn my page for the next row, row 9. Now row 9 has cross stitches in it, and they're going to be done a little differently, and you'll notice a pattern once we get to it. You're going to put a double crochet into that first stitch there. Then you are going to skip the next stitch and double crochet into the next stitch. Now you're going to go back and put your cross stitch in that one we skipped. Then you are going to chain 1. You are going to skip the next 4 stitches. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. One, 2, 3, 4. Then you're going to place a double crochet into the next stitch and then do a cross stitch into that first stitch. Chain 1. You're going to skip the next 2 stitches. The way that I put it was to skip the next stitch and then do your double cross. But you need to skip the next 2 stitches, put a double crochet into that last double crochet of the shell, and then come back into the 4th one and do your crossed stitch. Then you will chain 1. No. Yes, you do chain 1. Then you're going to skip the next 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. Place your double crochet into the next stitch and then do your cross in the stitch you just passed over. The pattern that you're going to see is, let me pull this up, is that your cross stitches are going to be in your first 2 stitches of the shell and the last 2 stitches of each shell. And you're just going to repeat that across to the center space. Now I'm going to continue where I'm crossing over to the last shell. I know that for some people was confusing in the way that I wrote the pattern. You know, when I was writing this, it made sense to me, and I thought it would make sense to others, but apparently it did not quite make sense. So you've got your last cross stitch in the last 2 stitches of that one shell. Now you're just going to skip all the way over to this stitch just before the chain 2 space and do another crossed shell. And then in the chain 2 space that is the center point, we'll place 2 double crochets, chain 2 and 2 double crochets. If I can get my fingers to work. Okay, now we are on the other side. So once again, we will chain 1. Oops, we're not going to chain 1 there. Sorry, folks. We'll do our crossed shell in this first 2 here. So skip 1, place your double crochet, and then come back and place the other crochet, double crochet in that stitch we skipped. Now we will begin our chain 1. Chain 1, and again, you already know that you're going to use the first 2 of the shell and the last 2. You can count if you want, but I find it easier just to go straight to it and put in that first part of the cross shell, double crochet, then the next one, chain 1, and go into that last double crochet of the shell, and then come back and do my cross stitch over there. I hope that that makes sense. Like I said, you can count the stitches if you want. I was hoping that the way that the cross shell came across, that you would see the pattern that you're doing. So that you're just basically using the first 2 and the last 2 stitches of your shell for the cross stitch. And just don't forget to do the chain 1 in between, because that will be important later for the next row. Okay, we've gotten to the last stitches here. So we're going to skip this single crochet, this next stitch, and put our last cross stitch in that stitch there, and then come back and do that for our cross stitch. And then in the last, the top of the chain 3, you'll put 2 more double crochets. You can chain 3 and turn, or turn and chain 3. Let me get some more yarn up here. Now, row 10, basically, we're just going to put double crochets in each and every stitch all the way across to our center. And then, of course, in our center, we'll put 2 double crochets and chain 2. And as always, in the first stitch, we place another double crochet. And now we will just simply double crochet all the way across the entire piece to the center. And yes, you are putting a double crochet in the chain 1 spaces. And I will tell you, when I was creating this shawl, Thomas was driving. And we were on the road on our way to going to State College to get groceries. And I was just going as along, and I recorded voice memos into my cell phone so that I knew what each row that I was doing. And then when I got back home, I sat down and started to write it out. And that was my design process for this. I do that quite often with a lot of things that I do. I don't always write out patterns. Sometimes I just do voice memos. But I want to encourage everyone to not be afraid to play with your shawls. Not shawls, blankets, whatever it is you are creating. Don't be afraid to try stitches and put different stitches together. Sometimes you may want something that has a whole lot more texture in it. So just play. And of course, we've gotten to the center, and the center has 2 double crochets, chain 2, do 2 double crochets. And once again, we are simply going to crochet in each stitch across. And I will meet you at the end, and then we will do row 11. I'm at the end, and don't forget to always, in the top of that chain 3 of the previous row to add 2 double crochets. Now, there are a lot of things, a lot of shawls, chain 3 in turn. A lot of shawls will do increases on the ends, on each ends for crochet, 2 on the ends. Some will put just 2 in the center, and some will put 4, so that you have a total increase of 6 stitches on each row. It just depends on how you want your shawls to end up. You can do them either way. They both look lovely. They're both great. So, yeah. All right, row 11 is basically just your increase in the end, and then double crochet stitch in each stitch along each side with 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets in that center point, and that is all row 11 is. Just double crochet in each stitch around. Don't forget your increases. I will meet you again at the end, and we will start row 12. Okay, I have come to the end of the row 11, and as always, remember to put 2 double crochets into that last chain 3 space of either the space or the chain, top of the chain 3 of the previous row. All right, now row 12 is another cross stitch row, the cross double crochet. So you can chain 2, chain 2, chain 3, turn, or turn and chain 3. As always, we're going to put our increased stitch into that first double crochet, and then you're going to place your double crochet, your cross double crochet over the next 2, which is skip the next stitch, double crochet into the next, and then bring that stitch over and double crochet into the one that you skipped, so you get a crossed stitch. Again, skip the next stitch, double crochet into the next stitch. Then you are going to yarn over and double crochet into that skipped stitch. You're going to repeat that all the way across till you get the center. And when you get to the center, you'll do your increase there of 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets into that chain 2 space. And then you will just repeat that on the other side until you get to that last stitch, and you will put in an extra stitch there on that chain 3. You just want to remember to put your double crochet, 2 double crochets in that last chain 3. Either you can use the space or you can use the top of the chain. I prefer to use the top of the chain. I just think it gives it a little bit of a nicer look. But you can certainly do it just in that, take it into a little bit of the space there. I've seen a lot of people do that, and they look just fine that way. So, let me get to that chain 2 space because we'll do the increase there. And then I will explain the rest of the shawl. Now, each time that you do row 12, you should end up right before you get to the chain 2 space for the center. You should have 2 stitches left to do that last cross stitch, that cross double crochet. I keep calling it a cross stitch. I hope you understand what I'm talking about. And of course, we're going to do our 2 double crochets, chain 2 in the center. And then we would begin that cross stitch in the next stitches, just like we did on this side, skipping the first, going into the next, until we get to the last stitch, which is that chain 3 here, and put 2 double crochets in that last chain. That is it basically for this pattern. The row repeats are row 7 through 12 until you get to your desired length. Now at that point you can choose to simply finish off, weave in your ends if you want. But what I have chosen to do with all of mine in the past is do another row 7 and 8. 8 is the shell row, so that you end on a shell pattern. I just like the way that looks. I think it's simple, it's easy. Yeah, that is it in a nutshell for this cowl. Now, the reason I am calling it a cowl is because from now through December let me see here. December through October the 2nd. I'm going to let you work on doing this shawl as you choose, and I would hope that you will send me a picture either to scraptasticyarns@gmail.com or post it in the group on Facebook, Scraptastic Yarns. And those that do that, I will enter your name into a random drawing for a tote bag. Now the tote bag is going to be one of my choosing. So it may be a Halloween bag. It may be just a bag that I have that hasn't sold and I choose to pull it from the Etsy shop that I have. But that is going to run through October the 2nd, 5 p.m. And about 7 p.m. I will draw a winner. That winner will need to get in touch with me through scraptasticyarns@gmail.com and to claim their prize. And they have about 3 days to claim that prize, or I will choose another winner. I hope that you are all game and willing to give this a shot. Like I said, you can use any kind of yarn you want, any size, any hook size, any weight of yarn. Just have fun with it and roll with it. I will correct that one part of the shawl on the pattern, and I will upload that new PDF in the Scraptastic Yarns on Facebook group. It is a free shawl. It is a free pattern. I do not charge for it. You are allowed to sell any of your finished items that you have made using this pattern, but you are not allowed to redistribute, sell this pattern, or claim it as your own. This, of course, is something that I did design myself. All right, guys, that is it for today's cowl. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it made sense. And I hope to see your pictures soon. Now, if you have any questions, feel free to email me at scraptasticyarns@gmail.com or to leave them down in the comments below. Leave your boos, your hisses, whatever, but try to be nice about it. Yeah. that is it. So as I'm going to say, as usual, be kind to one another, love one another, and get connected with God. Turn that radio on. See you guys soon. Bye.